Today, cancelled storylines are back. Hello guys, one more time, welcome to Ring Royalty. My name is Alexis, as you already know, and today I am bringing back, after many months, cancelled storyline. The jean jacket is back on and we are ready for part number 8. I don't know how to do numbers with my hands, so 8. I am bringing you 5 new storylines in this video, and for those who doesn't know the drill, let's explain it very fast. First, I'm gonna talk about what was the cancelled storyline about. Then I'm gonna tell you the reason why it was cancelled, if it is known, and finally I will give you my views on what could have happened if this storyline was actually included on the show. So without any further to say, let's start with the video. The first storyline to open the video would be Asuka against Paige at Wrestlemania for the Raw Women's Championship. So back in 2018, Asuka won the first ever All-Women's Royal Rumble, and she could decide what champion she wanted to face at Wrestlemania 34. What we got that year at Wrestlemania was Asuka against Charlotte for the Smackdown Women's Championship. However, that wasn't the original plan. Things were supposed to go down like this. Asuka would win the Royal Rumble, and a month after that, on Elimination Chamber, Paige was supposed to participate and win the Raw Women's Championship from Alexa Bliss, making her the champion that Asuka would choose, and they would collide in a championship match at the grandest stage of them all. I know it sounds on paper as a magical and maybe a dream match for many people. It will be only fitting, as Absolution was destroying each and every woman on the Raw roster. Except for Asuka, they have a couple of interactions right before the Rumble, but it stopped there obviously because, and this is the reason why this story was cancelled as well, Paige got a career-ending injury in a house show and she had to retire. Such an unfortunate thing that happened. Paige was so young, she could still give a lot to the company. You can watch my opinion about Paige over here in The Rise and Fall of Paige, but let's go back to the storyline. Asuka against Paige for the Raw Women's Championship could have been one of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history for women. I know Asuka against Charlotte was a top-notch match too, but the difference would have been that if Paige defeated Asuka's undefeated streak, I think people wouldn't have been that upset compared to what happened when Charlotte broke the streak. We all know that Charlotte is overrated, and even though they had one for the ages, I think Paige would have been in a better position if she actually had the chance and the privilege to win this match against Asuka and end her undefeated streak. The anti-diva against the Empress of Tomorrow at WrestleMania 34 definitely could have been one of my favorite matches ever. Sadly, it didn't happen. Triple H was the one that pitched the idea, and a lot of the management team actually liked it and decided to go with it. Sadly, because of the injury and because of Destiny, this was scrapped. The second storyline of the video would be Angelina Love on WWE. Can you believe that? If you only watch WWE, let me enlighten you about who Angelina Love is. She's a very famous pro wrestler, mostly known because of her period of time in TNA or Impact Wrestling. She's a 6-time Knockouts champion, and she's one of the original members of one of the most iconic women's tag team ever in The Beautiful People, along with Velvet Sky. She's currently wrestling in Ring of Honor. Before all of this, Angelina Love was actually training in FCW/OVW, a developmental territory for WWE, under the name of Angel Williams. She competed against the likes of Natalya and Michelle McCool, trying to perfect her wrestling skills so she could move to the main roster. This was actually a great deal back then because there were no many other big companies with women's divisions at the time, so WWE was basically a monopoly. And just the fact that she was there training with some very popular divas as Michelle and Natalya gave her a lot of hype. She was very talented in the ring, but just when she was about to get called up in early 2007, she got some visa issues as she's Canadian and she had to return to Canada to fix them. Allegedly, all of this paperwork would last 2 months, and WWE decided to release her before she even debuted. I mean, typical WWE, it wouldn't surprise me. I am not sure if I would have liked to see Angel Williams or Angelina Love in WWE. I mean, her career could have been completely different and maybe she would be such a huge star now, but at the same time, we wouldn't have gotten The Beautiful People to begin with. So I am a little bit torn in this one. I mean, Angelina Love against the likes of Mickie James, Beth Phoenix, or even Victoria sounds magical to me, but TNA actually gave Angelina so much opportunities and she grew so much there to start the Knockouts division. I would like to point out that none of this is confirmed, but the fact that Angelina spent around 2 or 3 years in WWE's developmental system is definitely a sign that WWE wanted to bring her to the main roster. So sooner rather than later she would have moved to the main roster, but I guess the timing wasn't right and that's why it didn't happen. I mean, not sure if I am happy or unhappy with this one, but it is what it is. Let's move to the third storyline, and this is probably the most confusing and outrageous one in the list, because when you hear it, you're gonna be like, what the hell? It would be Melina as a transsexual woman. In late 2005 and early 2006, Melina was the manager of M&M, Mercury and Nitro, and they were WWE Tag Team Champions. So, the #1 contenders at the time were Rey Mysterio and Batista, and Melina tried to seduce Batista in a very controversial segment backstage, so he could actually forfeit the match or convince him to lose. I'm not sure what was the deal there. The original outcome that we got from this segment was that Batista basically just had fun with Melina, taking advantage of the opportunity, but he would defeat Nitro Mercury anyways. But the real thing that was supposed to happen is that Batista would reveal, after Melina accused him of basically raping her, that she was actually he, that Melina was a transgender woman. I know before WWE went PG, we've gotten many controversial and edgy storylines and segments, such as Tori Wilson's Dad's Funeral or even Lita's pregnancy storyline, but I think this one particularly was way too much. The reason why it was cancelled is because Stephanie McMahon was actually really concerned of the negative impact this angle would bring to Melina's career later on. She said that basically it would kill her career, so she decided to cancel the whole storyline and didn't let it proceed. Wise decision, Stephanie, really. I think this was a terrible idea, probably WWE just looking for a big pop or OMG moment, but after the reveal, what could have happened with Melina? If you think about it, we have seen Melina's crotch so many times on TV when she was doing the M&M entrance. She was clearly not a man, so what was the point of this? I mean, it is just pointless. I don't even understand what they tried to do there. So definitely, we are not missing absolutely anything with this storyline. Melina, thank God, was saved from this awful angle, and she moved to be one of the greatest women's champions in WWE history. Thank God. Now that Melina is saved, let's move to the fourth storyline, and it will be Mandy and Otis' on-screen relationship. As you remember, this was one of the greatest storylines from 2020. Mandy and Otis' journey was so awesome, making Mandy turn on Sonya, the Wrestlemania kissing moment, the pair-up was awesome, Otis winning Money in the Bank. Definitely, it was the highlight of the Smackdown pandemic era. They were doing such a good job with the storytelling there, making Mandy, Sonya, Dolph, and Otis the most relevant characters outside title picture from the whole brand. But if you remember correctly, oh my god, my voice. But if you remember correctly, this angle ended abruptly after Mandy Rose was traded to Raw. It was announced by The Miz on social media. He was feuding with Otis at the time, and the storyline was supposed to be that Miz wanted to separate Otis from her loved one, sending her to Raw, and Otis would remain on SmackDown, and they were supposed to have this long-distance relationship storyline until the draft. That was a couple months later, and Otis would be drafted to Raw as well. Former WWE superstar Tucker revealed in an interview that the plans for this long-distance relationship actually fade away after a week. That's why she debuted on Raw with Dana Brooke as a tag team, and Otis just moved on to do his own thing, and the angle and pairing was never referenced again in WWE. In hindsight, they definitely ruined the outcome of this amazing storyline. Otis and Mandy were so over with the crowd, and together they could have been even bigger than what they were. And the thing is that this didn't even happen in the WWE draft, it happened before that, which makes it even more pointless. I don't understand what they were thinking. They definitely ruined the outcome of one of the greatest storylines they've had in a while, and it pisses me off. Looking at their career now, both Otis and Mandy are heels in completely different brands, so this storyline was basically pointless. Nobody won absolutely anything from it. After they were split, Mandy Rose was basically a jobber in the tag team division, Otis lost his Money in the Bank contract, Tucker was fired, Sonya was gone, and Dolph Ziggler just got lost in the mix one more time. But you will be the one to judge if you actually wanted Mandy and Otis to stay together or do you prefer them as separate individuals. I would have loved to see them together for a little longer or maybe have a logical explanation for the breakup, but I mean, what can I expect? The last storyline of this video was actually shocking for me. I heard a lot of rumors about it, but doing research, it was actually a thing. And it would be that Smackdown was supposed to be an all-women's weekly show. They were planning on doing it. To be honest, I was really surprised, but they discussed it many times before the conception of Smackdown in 1999. This show was supposed to be led by Chyna and Sable, who had a lot of star power back then. Chyna was already fighting with many men and the crowd was so behind her. Sable was so popular after being a Playboy cover girl and she was such an icon back then that these two ruling a new brand was actually an idea that could have worked. And WWE had a lot of faith on it, but there were so many different factors that actually caused these to be cancelled. The first one was Sable's departure from the company. There are so many reports that she was actually a diva. She didn't want to take bumps, but she didn't want to lose the women's championship either, so she didn't bring the championship to the tapings. They had to strip her of the title in a bikini contest, which she technically won but lost the championship anyways. It was definitely a hot mess. She would quit the company afterwards, and WWE didn't trust Chyna as the only woman with enough star power to lead the whole division as something that would work. I know that we had some other women back then like the Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young, but they weren't going to put some great matches anyways. We also had Ivory, Luna Vachon and Jacqueline, but besides that, most of the women there didn't know how to wrestle. We have the Cat, Terry Runnels, Barbara Bush. They were not real wrestlers, and WWE decided to scrap this idea of an all-women's weekly show just because of the lack of talent. And I completely understand that. Back then, girls were not only basically models and they were not trained wrestlers, but also this was the time that the roster only had around 6 or 7 girls and they were there just to have bikini contests, swimming pool, pudding, gravy matches and that type of stuff. So I totally see why WWE dropped this idea. Analyzing this a little bit more, knowing that some other legendary women debuted around 1 or 2 years after the SmackDown's debut, such as Trish Stratus, Lita, Molly Holly and Jazz, maybe it wouldn't have been such a big of a loss, but they needed time to build the division. Such a shame that after this conversation was shut down because of the lack of talent, there was never any other idea to bring an all-women's show again, despite many other women coming and even acquiring some other women from WCW like Stacy Keibler and Tori Wilson. But I mean, it is what it is. Such a shame. It could have been a milestone definitely, and a lot of things would have been different for women if they actually had their own show. Back then it was definitely oriented to a male audience, so I understand why the girls were used the way they were used. To sum it all up, this was definitely the biggest missed opportunity in women's wrestling history. After this moment, there was never in any company a discussion to have an all-women's show weekly. Such a shame there wasn't enough women in the roster to actually make it happen. Alright, so this was Cancel Storylines Part 8. For this one, I actually took hours and hours of research because I'm running out of storylines, but let me know down in the comments which of these storylines would you have loved to see and which ones were okay just being scrapped. I would love to know all your thoughts, so please comment down below. Once again, thank you for your support. I hope that you liked this video. If you want to see part 9, my god, part 9 already, let me know in the comments as well, and this will be it for this week. My name is Alexis, as you already know. Here is my Instagram as always. I want to let you know that maybe a collaboration is coming pretty soon, but I'm still not sure. I would only tell you this: if you like video games, you're probably gonna love this one. Goodbye and stay safe. See ya!